Just before the starting of the film, I would like to give you something in a tribute of all the work you have done until now, and for the next films we're going to see. I give in tribute the prize of Lisbon. Huh?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for organizing a retrospective. I'm young. I think I'll do other films from now on. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you'll enjoy the film. Anyway, we will meet at the end of it for a Q&A. What can I say more? Enjoy the ride, and we'll meet in 97 minutes.
Okay. 97 minutes we'll be here, and I have other already prepared for the future, okay, for you.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a very, for me, the idea of the tribute, because I think you have a very original, career, even in the Romanian cinema, because sometimes everybody says Romanian cinema, but in the Romanian cinema, like in all the other ones, but this one particular, the way that you film, the way that you treat the stories and everything are very different one from the other ones, and I think you arrive mostly all the time, all of you at the same time, but you have such a diversity, incredible diversity. And this film is a proof of that, because I think it's, in a way, in terms of budgets and everything, much different from the other films we have done. Why the idea of coming to do a film that surprises, because it's in a direction that normally the other films you show is not, were more concentrated in Romania, and this one speaks about Romania a lot, but in a completely different way.
So yeah, this project I started like 10 years ago, right after a film that I made, which is called Police Adjective. I saw a TV reportage about La Gomera, the island, in which they were speaking also about the whistling language. So I get interested in this language. I think all my movies they are related to the language. So I start to read about this language. I discovered that there are 40 different regions in the world where the people they communicate by whistling. On La Gomera, because they teach this language in the schools. So I get in contact with the head of this department from the island, and I get interested in this, and I develop. In fact, I start to write a script. I was not happy. I did another film. I came back on this subject after. So after my last fiction, The Treasure, I came back and I start to work on this one, thinking also of another character that I have in Police Adjective, which was the boss at that time. He was a guy that he explained all. He has a certain type of view, a very ideological one on the world. And I said, okay, this can't last. It's just, and starting with that character in my mind and with this whistling language, I start to write on this version.
And you went to La Gomera before you shot evidently the film, and you do all the cast. And but at the same time, it's a film that has a kind of a story that it's, even if it's very connected with all corruption. Mm-hmm. With in a way that sometimes you don't know what is worse, the mafia or the politicals, but in a way it's much more constructed, like a thriller that the other films that you made. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. what you think about?
Thinking about, I will define it like a neo-noir more, like a neo-noir in a way, noir, because deciding to make a film that the people, they hide all the time, they lie one of each other, they try by language to get an advantage on the other one. So thinking at this type of characters, I get back to the old noir films, to the classical ones, and I start, I watched them again, and I think that was the main inspiration for me.
The classic film noir, American film noir.
Yeah.
And how long you took all this process, from really starting, thinking, shooting, preparation, and everything? It was longer than the other films you made?
Yeah, a little bit longer, 4 years. From the
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years from the moment that I start to write the script, and okay, in between I made a documentary, so I spent like half an hour on half of a year on a documentary, maybe a little bit more, but I was writing in the same time. It's like 4 years. Yeah.
10 years ago, with your I don't know how to say it in Romanian anyway, policeman adjective, even though in English policeman is a noun, but in Portuguese
it's police adjective. Yeah.
Okay, in Portuguese we have policial for okay. So you have the same actor, Vlad Ivanov, but anyway, the leading role in the previous movie 10 years ago was called Christy. Yeah. Right, yeah. And now he plays a Christy, but he used to play Christy's boss, right?
Yes,
he's the one who asks Christy to look up the dictionary and say the words, and that's what gives the title. I was about to ask you about language. You already gave me half of my answer. Mm-hmm. So do you chose it, I don't know, purposes, or does Christy, I don't know, something related to the meaning, I don't know.
Yeah, in the same time, in police adjective, it was never specified, and it was just the name of the Angelake, never the first name, So I wanted to continue with this Christy, So I never, because in that one is the same. Is the main character is called Christy, but the boss, you never hear his first name. He's just Angelake, and here I wanted to have it like Christy Angelake, the other one.
But is there like a connection to the meaning of the name, or Christy being the leading role in the main name, or because you said you're connected to language, right? Yeah. Or no, or you just wanted to repeat the name?
No, for me it was like also like a certain type of relation in between the both characters in a way. He's the boss, and now this guy, you find him in a completely different world, and he's completely changed from that part. So I wanted to keep it like that. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the movie, and I was happy that I got to see it here in Lisbon. I saw a lot of references to other movies, the obvious one to Psycho, and one of the most interesting character was the guy who runs over Christy at the end with the car. And I wanted to ask you, because the surveillance part and like his appearance made me think of Das Leben den anderen, the life of others. Was that intentional? And I wanted to ask you about the scene where you killed the director, when they shot the movie director.
So yeah, first with the... No, I wanted to play with this concept in a way, because once you have the surveillance cameras, and on the other hand you have characters like Gilda, for example. Her name is not Gilda. Of course, she invented for her a certain type of character, which is coming from old films, It's the same with the guy from... So I wanted to have a certain type of tension in between cameras like a tool to tell stories, and cameras like a surveillance tool, which nowadays I think is more and more present. So I had, on the other hand, on the other side, characters that they invent, or they inspired, or they construct a second nature, which is coming from cinema, from the old films. So I wanted to play with that, because they hide so much. Then in this particular case, there are people that they are dealing all the time with let's say, they are in dangerous places, and they try to escape, and they try to hide themselves. So that was, and with the director, it was a scene at the end, a little bit longer. I took the decision in the editing to kill him so fast. Yeah, it was something like, a story. I said, anyway, no one from the audience will relate. We would have a certain type of empathy with this kind of director, so I will do something like a dark humor. And of course, from that moment, I think I had also the feeling that I start to play a lot with a lot of references to have that scene there, from the old cinema.
First of all, I want to thank you for the film. I need to agree with Paulo Branco was saying before, because I think you are the most interesting director in the Romanian cinema. Because of one thing, I talked a few years ago when Andrei Ogica was part of the Doc Festival. He was a member of the jury, and back then I was talking with him because I was saying that Romanian cinema somehow seems trapped in two ways. The first way was the Ceausescu period and the reflection of that period, and after that he tried to look at contemporary, making somehow a kind of neo-realism. And I was thinking the first period was really interested. And of course, Andrei Ogica was one of my favorite directors back then. But the second period, besides a few examples like yours, it doesn't seem so interesting, because the Romanian cinema somehow was trapped by this trying to narrative. But you, with this film, already the film before this one, it was already something trying to escape, but this one is completely different from everything that I'm seeing from Romania. Do you think there is important to somehow to escape from these two ways in the Romanian cinema?
No, I think from the beginning we were different, and we were in the first, all of us, And I think the Romanian wave, it was like a stamp that from outside, because we are all at that time young directors. We started, all of us. I think even in our day we try to define ourselves in a world we are living in. But in the same time, I think we were different from the beginning. And I see my cinema from the beginning is very different from Cristi Puiu's.
No, I was talking only about the subject, not in terms of.
Yes, and in terms of, I think at the end of the day, each director tries to find his own voice. Has his own path. I think has his own way, and I think that. The Romanian cinema is quite rich now in our days, and I think that you have directors like Cristi Puiu, which he goes in his own way. Cristian Mungiu also, he has his own world, and of course, but we didn't have something programmatic behind us in the beginning, so we were not like a wave. I see more and more like individuals or creators that they do their own work, their own films. To be honest, I don't like to compare, I saw their films, I'm influenced by, but in the same time I feel that each one of us is quite special, let's say, or he's trying to do his own work,
Yes, it was only because of the subject, because it was very common ground in the beginning, and now it's another thing. And your film, this film seems very obvious that you are going to another direction, completely separate from the Ceausescu period and this new neo-realism of Romania nowadays.
Yeah, the treasure in a way is like a fabula, no? Or I have other, even the metabolism, the movie before it was a certain type of, let's say in that direction too. So it's a certain type of research that I do it from quite a time. The documentary before Infinite Football, it's also, yeah, it's more metaphoric in a way.
And something, just to say how, you know, you came, you know, we started very young doing the films. You came, what were your references more or less at that time? What was, why when you start shooting, I think, and had the possibility of doing it, you have any references or you wanted to do, you know, because I are a real cinephile that saw a lot of movies and something brought you to the cinema, or you just, you wanted to, from where you came?
So yeah, I discover in a way, I saw when I was a kid a lot of films on VHS, all these kind of B-series films, Americans, and that was happening during communism. And after that, at 18 years old, I start to study management. And one cousin invited me at one point to the Cinematheque. I saw La Dolce Vita, and I like it so much, and I started to go to more and more to Cinematheque. And after that, I decided to study cinema. So yeah, I like to see movies, but as you could see, I'm not a very good orator. So I think for me, cinema it's a way to express myself. And yeah, for me it's important what I have to say in the beginning, and after that it's coming the form. And now here I'm quite open, you know. I like all kind of cinema. From Romer, it's a director that I love. Also the French New Wave, Melville in the same time, American classical films. So I like to see movies, and sometimes even that they are bad, maybe they count. At the end of the day, I think each director has something, you know. And you could see a film which has a moment that you never think about, or a moment of grace, you know.
And how is now, you know, you still has this, you feel that you know, I think you and your colleagues, even if they are different ways, they construct anyway a possibility of going shooting with some, you know, continuity, you know. It's something that you feel that is in danger now, or you still think that, you know, even with, you know, because Romania is changing, everything is changing in the West as well, everything is changing, you still feel that you have this, you know, optimism that you can go on fighting for your own, or you have to adapt it more with the stories and everything, what, you know, the televisions want and everything.
Of course, we are living in a days, yeah, but let's say depends on the subject. At the end of the day, now I have subject that I could treat them on, like in a long format, let's say a TV series, or subject that I could continue to make, like fiction films, normal films, you know. It's depends on the subject and on the budget. In my case, I think because in this one also I was financed by Arte France, Romanian CNC, Eurimage, so I have a lot of sources. So maybe if I want to do other films, of course, if I want to make a film of 15 millions, I will never do it, you know. So, or I have to do it I will try to do it in English. But depends all the time how much money and which is the project at the end of the day. I think we are living in a world for the directors, I think it's not a bad moment, because also I feel that even in streaming, they have to make, because they are coming more and more players, they will have to do a different, they have to do it differently from now on. So it could be it could give birth to a certain type of creativity, maybe which we didn't have it for quite a long time in cinema, like in studio style, you know, maybe. Because, yeah, not now, but maybe in 5 or 10 years. Because even now you have, it's not, you see that it's less and less standard, you know, you could have formats of 30 minutes, mini-series, or you could have for, and cinema, for the theaters, I think it will, now maybe it's a moment, it's a difficult one, but I'm optimistic because I think people, they will came back at this type of experience. I hope, I don't know.
I think it's, that's new ways of producing, but that will change as well in make films, but that will change as well the way that people are seeing the movies. I think that is not the debate today. That is for another thing.
You know better, but you know better than me.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I just, it's one of the things, when you think that you know something, you are lost. I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we had the possibility of seeing most of your films, and I think the ones that took this opportunity will, they discovered that we have really a very original career and trajectory, and we are really waiting what's coming after. And I hope that in some years I do a new tribute with at least the double of the films we show it today. And I think so, because I think in European cinema, if you see around you, there is not so many directors that we can feel that the career is so strong like yours. So thank you very much.
Thank you for distributing my films. Even I think it's hard here in Portugal.
This is our work now. It's how to make the films being seen in the better conditions. That is true. That is something that every day we have to think, and every day we have to invent. And but your films are opening anyway, here and in mostly of the countries. I think that gives us some hope for the future.
Just a very short question. In the end, Christy can't speak anymore. The only thing he can just whistle. Mm-hmm. So they will spend the rest of their lives whistling to each other. That's an interesting idea. Okay.
Do you want to see the second?
What?
Maybe I will do the second part.
Why not? Well, that's a very good idea. Do you learn to whistle?
Unfortunately, the teacher came to Bucharest to train the actors. The actors are more intelligent than me, and they get it very fast. So the teacher is supposed to stay 2 weeks, and I realized that for me, he has to stay 1 month. So I let him with the actors, and the actors, they did very well. I think Christy, I doubled him in twice, in the film. After that, he because they did like 2 weeks in Bucharest, and after that, they continue by Skype. And also the two Spanish actors that they had to whistle, they took classes. But as I told you, for me, it took more time, and I will practice home.
Doesn't seem easy. Very interesting, but not easy.
No, it's not easy. And the 2 weeks they worked like maybe 8 hours by days. It was quite tough. But after that, you have to practice a lot, so you don't know, maybe.
Maybe the teacher will have a lot of work to do, because with all this control of the society all over, all of us, we need to communicate whistling from now on. Okay.
Mulțumesc.
Thank you very much.
Mulțumesc și eu.
Thank you.
Thank you.